Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Ryan Hamilton joins us. He's the Laxalt for Senate campaign manager, here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Do you play golf? The Optimist Club of Reno is hosting the inaugural Ray Pezzanella Memorial Golf Tournament on June 3rd at Red Hawk Golf Club. For more information, go to pezgolf.org. Funds raised to go to benefit local children's programs.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're delighted to welcome to the program for the first time Ryan Hamilton. He is the Laxalt for Senate campaign manager. Pleasure to have you here, sir.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. I wanted to get a little background on you for people that may not be aware of who you are. You joined, if I am correct, J3 Strategies with Robert Eidhoven back in 2015. Is that correct?
Yes, that's ancient history, but accurate.
All right, well, 7 years ago, so it's a long time you've worked for Robert, who has been a longtime friend of this program. What were you doing before you worked for J3 Strategies?
Immediately before this, I was working as the executive director of the Republican Party of Nebraska.
Okay, and how long were you doing that for?
I was there for about 3 years and a couple months. I joined early 2019, so I was there for the 2020 cycle. And Nebraska also has off-year municipal races like Nevada used to have, so I was there for the Omaha and Lincoln City Council races as well.
And what did you take away from your experience in Nebraska?
Boy, I think that could fill a volume, but I will say that attitudes regionally are very distinct. A Republican in Nevada is not necessarily the same thing as a Republican in Nebraska. Coming up here, you learn to deal with a wide variety of things, casino gaming, on road trips north. When I was in high school, you'd drive by brothels. I think that's just kind of unconscionable to the people of Nebraska to pass by that thing. Casino gaming was just legalized there. It was highly controversial. And so I would say that regional differences are still alive and well in this country, despite the fact that we have sort of a monopoly media, a national media that's driving culture down. And those regional differences are distinct.
You know, that you bring up a really interesting point, because for so many people that are aware of national media, whichever media it is that they're watching or listening to, they tend to think that politics is a monoculture, whether it's Republican or Democrat, when in fact, really, like you say, it's very distinct and different across the country.
It's definitely distinct and different across the country. And the issues that are part of a Las Vegas City Council election, I can tell you, aren't really part of an Omaha City Council election. We face homelessness here in Las Vegas. The quality of life is declining. In Omaha, roads are their biggest concern. The cold, the climate takes a huge toll on their infrastructure every year, and the maintenance is a significant budget item for them in a way that it just isn't here. So those differences down to the local level and up to the state level are like you say, very alive in politics.
Let me pick up on what you just said. The quality of life in Las Vegas is declining. In what way do you feel that that's the case?
Well, we've got serious high housing prices for people who are trying to enter the housing market. It's prohibitive right now. We've got very bad unemployment. The last I checked, we were still in the bottom 10 in terms of unemployment. On top of that, prices, inflation, consumer prices are at a record high. So you've got to pay more for gasoline. Things that you used to consider a luxury item, like a ticket on a concert at the House of Blues on the Strip. Well, now a price of the tank of gas in my sedan, which is not an especially big or fancy car, exceeds the price of that ticket. So you've got all of these factors commingling at one time: higher prices, less availability of work, and housing prices undergirding all of that I think are putting the people of Las Vegas, and I'll say Reno as well, under real stress.
I'm not disagreeing with you on the housing prices. It's been an interesting time because we've seen this for quite a while in northern Nevada, and now it's starting to pick up steam in southern Nevada, which is EDOM put out a thing several years ago saying that we needed 5,000 new homes a year for the next 10 years in northern Nevada, and we're building about 1,500. So obviously that has a direct effect on the pricing of housing. Add into that mix, and this is statewide, the cost of building a house in terms of wood and all the other materials that you need. A lot of builders at this point in time are stopping and saying, hey, we need to reprice everything before we can move ahead. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I immediately think about the inflationary policies of the federal government driven by the Biden administration, enabled by Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, that's exacerbating asset inflation on top of all of the things that you just mentioned, which means that if you have available liquid, you don't want cash. So you're buying a house so that you can have a renter and that you can store the value in that real estate because you know the value of your cash is going to decrease considerably quicker than the value of the real estate, which may in fact increase. And so these policies are pushing people who used to take their liquid cash and put it in the stock market or in other places to vest it in inflation. And that means you're having new homeowners have to compete with those people for, as you said, an already diminished inventory of houses. So I think that on top of the problem that you have with resources, which is obviously policy driven as well, you have problems at the financial level, which is really inflaming an already bad situation here in Las Vegas.
One of the things that I would just throw out as a caution, having owned my house for well over 30 years now, I have seen pricing come and go in terms of going up and dropping down precipitously depending on what's happening with the economy. So there is a danger for people who are investing in property at this point. I wouldn't say so much land, but in housing, that the prices we're seeing right now are maybe not at a peak, but getting there, and something could happen that could drop that. So that's not necessarily the best investment at this point in time.
Well, I think over the short term, you're absolutely right. But if you're looking to store value over a significant period of time, like you mentioned, 15, 30 years, it's hard to argue that real estate, particularly here in Southern Nevada, is a bad investment given the value of it, over the long term. Increase on par with inflation has been pretty strong.
Yeah, and I do agree with you that makes total sense. The only caveat is that with the pricing where it is right now, I mean, in Reno right now, you can buy a $350,000 home for $800,000.
Doesn't sound like a very good deal to me.
And of course it's not, but it's the same thing in Northern California, for example. My old house in Sausalito 30 years ago cost $60,000. I was renting, of course, not buying at that point in time. Now that house is worth $1.2 million, but $1.2 million ain't worth what it used to be.
That's right.
You mentioned the stock market. The stock market to an extent, for those that really don't understand the stock market, is a casino. Do you think that that's a very good place to put assets these days?
I mean, I can't pretend to pass myself off as a financial expert. So anybody listening to this, please don't take my advice. I think over the long term, the stock market still proves to be a good store of value, particularly when you're looking at blue chip proven investments. They have kept pace over the last 30 years, in fact, beaten inflation. But I think that we are facing, or maybe are already on the other side of, a major inflection point. Prices for consumer goods, well, the government will say, have gone up between 6 and 9%, depending on the data set. But in the grocery store, the true cost year over year is closer to 30%. I was just hearing from someone at a Lincoln Day who was talking to a rancher in Elko that the demand for meat is super off balanced because the lower grade cuts like hamburger are the only thing that are in demand right now, and they can't fulfill that. And I think that's a reflection of people tightening their belts because things that used to be affordable to them as a sometimes luxury item, like a good cut of steak, have now become prohibitively expensive on top of all of the other consumer price increases that people are facing.
You make a good point, and I can say I do the shopping at our house, and I can say that even shopping at places like Whole Foods, that the cost has gone up at minimum 25%, and in some cases higher than that. So I agree with you on that. But what we've seen over the last two administrations, this one and the previous administration, has been a dumping of vast amounts of money into the system. And there are a lot of economists that are going, a lot of the problems that we are seeing today are because of these trillions of dollars that we put in. That's given the public lots of cash to spend. The cash that's been spent has been spent on goods, and that's what's causing the supply chain issues. That's what's causing, supply and demand. If there's a limited amount of supply and a lot of people have cash, then they can't go out and buy that product. Therefore, the product price goes up. So isn't that really an extension of what's been happening over the last two administrations based on COVID, but a lot of other issues as well?
Yes, I obviously will be a little bit more defensible of the Trump administration, which I think faced some greater challenges related to COVID, and they were making direct payments, for instance, to individuals. The Biden administration has decided that everything from critical race theory in schools to puddles in the street and cleaning them up counts as infrastructure, and are passing bills that not only make consumers buy goods, but put the government and major corporations, contractors on behalf of the government in competition with people like home builders as well. So you've got those policies driving it. At the same time, you've got an unemployment policy, which is paying people more than ever to not work, compounding some of these inflationary issues because it's harder to get labor. You have to pay more, and that drives the cost of goods up as well. So I think that there are a number of things that the Biden administration is doing that is making it worse, that the Trump administration likely wouldn't have done in a counterfactual case. But I agree, what is happening at the federal level needs to stop. And that is part of the reason that I decided to return to my home state of Nevada and work for Adam Laxalt, so he can help make Republicans a majority in the United States Senate and stop the Biden administration and these destructive policies in their tracks.
And we are looking forward to having Adam on the program. We're attempting to set up a debate, as you well know, and either way, we hope to have Adam on the program to talk about these issues, whether it's in a debate or in a solo format. I think one of the hidden stories of both administrations is where the money went, because when you have, as you well know, being involved in politics as long as you have been, when there are trillions of dollars that are sent out across the country, there are lots of things that are tucked into those bills that we may never find out for years of where that money went. But when there's even when there's billions of dollars, there's room for trickery. And I don't think any of us in the political world are going to be shocked to find out where some of this money went. You got a comment on that?
Shocked, I guess, I'm with you. I think as journalists pore over it, as people have the opportunity to review archives, we're going to learn some very interesting things. The lesson that I think people should take from that is that the government fundamentally is not a very good distributor of cash. They don't really have the checks set up. The money isn't incented in the same way it is in the private market. And for that reason, we should try to steer our resource allocation away from government systems of allocation to private systems of allocation, which have different incentives. And that's why you get less waste in major corporations or small businesses, say, because that money directly impacts somebody's paycheck.
Well, and I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think that something that a lot of us have learned in a very hard way over the last few years is the inefficiency of government, whether it be putting together vaccination programs and convincing the public that they are good for them, whether individuals believe that or not, that's up to them. But the government, did a horrible job across 2 administrations getting this message across. The money being pushed out to people whether they need it or not, and at a point where there was certainly time for the government to figure out who actually needed the money and who didn't. And instead, I got so many calls from wealthy people going, where do I send the $1,400 back? I mean, that's insanity.
I hope you gave them my contact information.
No, I told them about the United States Treasury, but that's the reality, is that a lot of money was sent to a lot of people, and that's why we're rolling around still in cash, because people have so much money that they didn't need, and certainly the people who did need the help, all in favor of that. But way too much money went into the system, and that's part of what we're dealing with. Let's take a break. We'll come back with more with Ryan Hamilton. He is the Laxalt for Senate campaign manager, and we'll be right back.
The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your air conditioner breaks down today. We fix it today. Why sweat for days while your air is down when Nevada Heating can get the job done today and you can get cool again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 or see us online at nevadaheating.com.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful. Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years.
Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Ryan Hamilton. He is the Laxalt for Senate campaign manager. We're in discussion for a debate between Adam Laxalt and Sam Brown on the program, and looking forward to that coming up here hopefully very soon. You spent time, obviously, once you started working for J3 Strategies with Robert Eidhoven, working in the legislature in Nevada. How was that experience for you as a homeboy?
It's very interesting. And again, I'll contrast the dynamics with Nebraska. I'll say the Nevada legislature, from my perspective, has somewhat of a summer camp atmosphere where you have all of these legislators who are traveling 8 hours from home. And what is immediately across the street from the legislature, Sam?
Well, that's where I tape.
True, but a bar.
Exactly.
Which is a very Nevada institution. In Nebraska, the legislature is this grand building I think it's a Depression era building. It's the third Capitol they've had, and it's surrounded by the governor's mansion, law offices, and most of the people who serve in the Nebraska legislature are about 60 to 90 minutes away from home or less. And so the atmosphere is just considerably different because you've got commuting legislators as opposed to overnighting legislators. And the structures, the physical architecture of the city of Lincoln, I think makes it a more serious, perhaps we'll say, atmosphere, particularly in the off hours. But working in the Nevada legislature was a lot of fun. I mean, I was, I hate to say it, somewhat of a dork in high school. You know, I did the Sun City Youth Forum. Apologies to all the Sun City Youth Forum dorks who were listening. But it was awesome to be able to work up there to see how the sausage got made. I was grateful to be a part of the efforts that made Uber legal here in Nevada, which I think has been a huge improvement in the quality of life of the people who live here and the people who visit here. But I can tell you that one thing that you learned is that interests are present in the legislature. They have their own representation from gaming all the way down to transportation. And that was a lesson I think that I have taken with me.
That wasn't the case in Nebraska?
Oh, certainly. Different set of interests. Every legislature.
Oh, I see.
Interests.
Okay. And I do want to say that the Bank Exchange is a bar. It is across the street from the legislative building. It is owned by one of our sponsors, and they are very kind to let us use their conference room. So there is no 7 a.m. drinking going on during our taping.
Or the Fox, or, you know, I think I could name 2 or 3 within spitting distance of the front door of the Capitol.
All right, let's take another break. We'll be right back with Ryan Hamilton with the Laxalt for Senate campaign after this timeout. I'm here at the Carson Valley Inn in Minden with Joey Whitaker, and you've got a lot of convention space and meeting breakout space for people. Tell us about what's available.
Well, we can handle a group up to about 250, and anywhere as small as 10 or 15. So it really depends on what you're looking for, what the customer's looking for. We're open to anything. It's a beautiful drive, and if you live in South Reno, it's probably about 30, 35 minutes, so it's real easy to get to. It's not a long way to get away to the Carson Valley Inn.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Ryan Hamilton. He is the Laxalt for Senate campaign manager, and we are working on a debate, as I think most of our viewers and listeners know at this point in time, and also getting Adam here on an appearance himself. So as you look at your polling, and I know that you guys are doing a lot of private polling as well as the stuff you release to the public, how much of a red wave do you literally see in Nevada?
I mean, I think it's consistent with what people are feeling, what the media is reporting. I can tell you Adam has said frequently, and I think it's absolutely true, that the difference from previous campaigns, and he's been a part of campaigns in 2014, obviously in 2018 and 2020, and now in 2024, the mood is absolutely different than it has been previously. And I think that's a result of the many challenges that people are facing that we talked about in the first segment economically. And I think that is driving a lot of people to change their minds about who ought to be in power, what policies we ought to adopt formally, and who they're going to vote for. And at the same time, I think it's taking a lot of people who might have previously shown up at the polls and taking a little wind out of their sails. You know, these people that they thought would be a great change have not been, and perhaps they're not as enthused about participating in the political system as they were. And so I know there was a Democrat poll that came out on Friday that showed Trump up 10 against Joe Biden in Nevada, which was astounding. And it showed Adam up 7 against Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada, which is a really great position to be at. And what I'll say is that's a result of Adam's great work. You know, we've got a lot of competitive Senate races going on across the country. Adam is, I think, the only one, but maybe one of two, of the named Republican candidates who's beating the incumbent. So in Arizona, you've got 4 candidates. Any of those 4 candidates, one-on-one against Mark Kelly, is not doing as well as the generic Republican is. Adam is actually exceeding the generic Republican score.
Okay, and just to provide a little balance here, there will be lots of polls coming out over the next year that we will be able to see, and that is just one that you are referencing. I really appreciate.
I don't want your viewers to get the mistake that we don't think this is going to be close. Listen, we're going to work like all get out to win this thing. We're going to pretend like this is a one-vote race right up until every day. Now, I think the move.
Okay, Ryan, I apologize. We are out of time. But if it ends up with a deck of cards, that will be a typical Nevada thing, as you know. Hey, great to have you on the program, sir. Really appreciate it. Ryan Hamilton is Laxalt for Senate Campaign Manager. Thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back.
Ahern Rentals began as Signal Gas Station on Las Vegas Boulevard. Founder John Ahern grew the business by offering rentals. His son Don built on John's legacy, growing Ahern Rentals into the largest independently owned American rental company, with 89 locations in 30 states. Don also brought his experience and vision to equipment manufacturing with Extreme Manufacturing and Snorkel. Today, Ahern Rentals continues to bring its family values to a new generation. Learn more at ahern.com.
Because of UMC, I'm putting my free time to good use.
Because of UMC, she keeps me on my toes.
Because of UMC and this guy, I'm here.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at NevadaNewsmakers.com. You can also check our archive going back to 2005 on our website. Again, NevadaNewsmakers.com. We'll see you on the next show.